Emu and Ragnir continue to square off in an attempt to end their century-old feud. Princess Shuri is still on ice, and with that, we begin learning even more about the man, the myth, the legend, Hummingbrook, who now joins the ranks of having two backstories. And while we did see this coming, we did not know when it would be. So like we usually do, we're going to take this chapter from the top, and for this week it is a review of chapter 1183 titled Mor-Maid, which is just a fun pun play on mermaid. So Ragnir is still squeaking away at Emu, who comments that he has been waiting all this time. You've been waiting all this time, Ragnir, for someone capable of bringing vengeance upon Mu. I get the sense that this implies Emu was the one who killed Ragnir's former master and wielder, the war god of Elbaf. And that may have been what pushed the squirrel to merge with the hammer into the incarnation that we have today, as I believe they were once separate entities. Loki, in typical fashion, questions what Emu is rambling on about, but he also mentions that Emu is more resilient. Loki has never seen someone so resilient in his life, which I suppose when you are fighting the ruler of the world, that it maybe makes sense. That's probably to be expected. And in my last video, we went over how Emu has not been regenerating from the damage he is suffering. In that one, I surmised that he either can't or simply does not need to. Now, this comment from Loki doesn't really clear that up, but it does kind of make me think that the answer could just be both. Like, he is so resilient that he doesn't need to take advantage of the regeneration, or it's also still possible that he can't. So, maybe it's that he can't regenerate, but the trade-off for that is he's just so strong that it's not necessary. Emu, as he has been lately, dropping lore, although this time is not the lore yet, it's close. No, we're there. And he says something interesting. Loki, Straw Hat Luffy, neither of ye could ever be Mu's soldiers. Mu will erase thee, just like Dozan. So there are two things I would like to focus on here. One, he calls the two of them by name, Loki and Straw Hat Luffy. I think this is the first time he's directly addressed them this way, at the very least, while in this battle here on Elbaf, rather than addressing them as Nidhogg and Nika like he has in the past. Now, does this imply that not only are the devil fruits themselves resistant to his power, but the individuals as well? Or perhaps it is not their fruits, but who they are as people that led to this? Maybe Emu just recognizes that no matter what kind of offer he puts on the table, Luffy and Loki will never accept it. And along with that, they are resistant to his Domi Reversi, so he can't have them join him willingly, and he cannot have them join him by force. In any case, I think, as I kind of just mentioned, this confirms that neither Luffy nor Loki can be Domi Reversi'd, and again, nor would they ever serve Emu willingly. And that second one, we really can say we already know. The second part of this comment is Dozan. Who is this individual? Is he the war god of Elbaf? Is he the forest god, one of the other gods we haven't encountered yet? Neither of them have been given directly a name, right? Neither of them have been named yet. But we can be pretty sure he is another individual that was resistant to Emu. This might be a little too on the nose, right? But I also can't help but wonder if he is in some way tied to the will of D. I'm not so much saying that it stands for the will of Dozan, though it could, but that it contains multiple parts, right? So to give an example of this, Let's take the popular theory of the Will of D being tied to the moon, or maybe to the people of the half moon spoken of in the Harley text. What if this Dozan was either a member of or even the leader of these people, and that the Will of D itself was spurred on by this individual or group, but also was inspired by whatever it is that they believe in or believed in at the time? While we simply don't know for sure who Dozan is, there's no direct, leads towards that. I certainly think there is more to be explored here with this individual. We get one more clash between Loki and Emu before cutting away, with Loki and Ragnir giving us yet another Ragna attack, this one called Ragna 2 Jin Blades Heim, which is a mouthful. So it produces 2 bolts of lightning that spread out to create a bladed attack. I'm not sure if it's a flying attack that Loki can send out, or if he himself is driving it into his opponent. Emu, like with all the other attacks, meets this head on, this time with a slashing sword technique of his own. And to do so, he extends the omen side of his weapon out to create something that I believe is akin to a longsword. And while we can't quite see it, he may have coated the bladed side of his weapon with omen as well. He then uses a spinning or sweeping maneuver to block Loki's strike. He calls this technique the Sword of Wrath Gram. And if I'm not mistaken, Gram is a sword from mythology, but that is as far as my knowledge of that goes. So we don't get the result of this clash here, though, as we now cut away to the rain god Zaza, Killingham, and the kids. And let me say, just like I did in my last video, we need my man Jinbei in here, not on fire control, but on water control. Because as cool as the giants look here trying to save their kids, as much respect as I put on their names for that, they are getting absolutely washed. That pun was very much intended. Chopper even mentions that they are still doing blood transfusions, but Ripley states that they are once again trying to take her boy, and so her life does not mean a thing. And I do appreciate this, right? It is within full expectations that the parents will lay down their lives to save their children. I don't think there's anything strange about that. And like I said before, I put a lot of respect on the Giants' names for that. I do think that they're going to need the Straw Hats' help to save the kids. This also makes me think that if the Celestial Dragons were to succeed and the kids were to be taken, I am pretty sure that Elbaf would end up bending the knee, just like Emu wants, at least until they get the kids back. Like, with as much as they're willing to put down right here, right now on Elbaf, if the kids were not even in their sight anymore, I think it's pretty obvious that they would listen. So with 7 brats, Killingham feels that they are good to go and prompts Zaza to follow him. We end this scene with Sanji catching up and wondering what is happening, and I gotta say, this might not be good. He can absolutely attack Killingham, but if Killingham hides behind Zaza, is Sanji gonna be able to do anything? Does a dream demon, does a female in dream demon form count to Sanji? I'm willing to say yes. So that might create a little bit of tension there. And I do question how exactly it is going to be solved. And we won't find out until at least next week, because it is at this point that Oda, no wait, I mean Goda, gives us Brook and Shuri / Gunko's backstory. Now before we continue, if you like my videos, if you like what I'm doing, if you like my beard, please like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. It is very important for small channels, but more than that, I would greatly appreciate it. We see the effects that Emu's Maki Blast had on the ice surrounding Gunko, and as we were led to believe, well, the answer to those effects is that it did nothing. And frankly, if even Emu cannot melt that ice, I am fully inclined to believe Loki's comment about Ragnir being the only one who can do so. Emu probably knew this too, which is why despite trying an attack anyway, he did not spend any time following up. This also means that Gunko, who I will probably start calling Shuri, is safe for now, probably for the rest of the arc, and we should be able to unfreeze her by the end. Now, whether or not her death at the hands of Emu can be prevented, well, for that, we will have to wait and see. Though later in the chapter, we do learn that Shuri is still within the confines of her lifespan, so if Emu were to take his power out of her, she might not turn into dust like Saturn, whom we did not know how old he was. At the very least, I can see her and Brooke getting one last conversation, getting one more in to clear everything up. Though, by the end of this chapter, I found myself wanting him to get a little bit more than that. So we get a conversation between Usopp, Brooke, and Nami next. Usopp mentions that he really only butted in because he could tell the confrontation between the two was serious. At the same time, Nami questions if she is an enemy from Brooke's past. Here we learn from Brooke that she is not an enemy, but also is not an individual he ever wanted to see again. But now that he has, he is completely lost. And as we go on in this chapter, we're going to see why he is so conflicted. And, given Brooke's age, I think it is fair that he safely assumed that he would not be encountering anyone from so early on in his life. After all, if Shuri or Gunko is the individual he thinks she is, then she would be 77 years old by now. While we know about the immortality and persistent youth granted from Emu, the Straw Hats do not. So it is normal for them to think that she most likely or outright can't be the same person, and that perhaps she is merely a similar looking individual. Nami also mentions that she is a celestial dragon too, but that part is not surprising to Brooke because the last time he saw Shuri, she was departing from Mary Joie. There goes my lights.
5 minutes later.
Frankie then runs up mentioning that she is still frozen solid and that this is preventing them from figuring out if she is alive or not. And despite the rebuttals coming from the Straw Hats, Brooke lingers on the fact that celestial dragon or not, Shuri is undoubtedly the one who released their restraints. Not only that, she directly asked Brooke, pleaded with Brooke to run. This implies that she recognized him, even as a skeleton, and he cannot shake the confusion on why she did this. Why did she release them? Why did she plead with him to run? He also clearly recognized that after this, she turned back into the devil form, which we know as Emu's possession, taking back control. And with this observation, Brooke concludes it is as if she is exhibiting 3 separate personalities. How she was at the beginning of the arc, and when they first started fighting her. How she was when she freed the Straw Hats, which was reminiscent of the Shuri that he remembers. And how she was fully under Emu's control. So really we know that it's 2 different personalities plus Emu. He couples this with having seen Giant's Domi Reversied right in front of him firsthand. Those are the same thing. To conclude that perhaps in the past, when she killed her father, and even to this day, that she is in fact being controlled. The other man, the myth of his own right, the legend, first son of the sea Jinbei, comes in with a cold, hard line telling Brook that even if this is insensitive, they need to know if she should be spared or killed, and that the decision for this will come down to Brook. I appreciate how matter-of-fact this statement is. It both shows respect to Brook while acknowledging the seriousness of the problem. And I will admit, this right here, for all you naysayers out there, is part of what makes Jinbei my current favorite Straw Hat. We now officially enter the flashback as Brook regales us with his past, which brings us back to a precise point in time, 70 years ago at exactly 4 a.m., where Brook is making his way through the streets singing a song about mermaids and waking up the townsfolk. So early. Listen, Brook. Listen, here's the deal. I'm an early riser. I've been an early riser my entire life. But I gotta say, 4 a.m. is simply too excessive. It is no wonder they are all disgruntled with you, all except for one individual whom we will meet soon. Then we get this absolutely wonderful wide shot panel of Brook in the sky above the town, striking the Nika pose with the sun rising behind him. Now, we've seen Brook do this before at Fishman Island in his fight against Zio. But for me, something about this panel, it just holds more weight and significance. As if Brook himself has also been embodying the dawn of the world from the very, very start. The kingdom from which Brook originates is known as the country of instrument makers, the Asperia Kingdom. Through his dance and song, we are brought to the palace where what I presume we see here are the members of his convoy are straight up fawning over Brook. And I mean, they've got the smiles, they've got the sparkles behind them, the works. They plead with him, Brook Sensei, please teach us your swift slash. And also, you dote on Princess Shuri way too much. Just gotta throw that out there, Captain. Brook remarks that while it may be shameful that he is not teaching them, that they must first master the basics before he can even attempt to teach them his slashing technique. We are then treated to what I think is the youngest we have ever seen Brook, at only 20 years old, long before he became a skeleton. Yo ho 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 ho! Looking dapper, mind you, in his knight's attire and walking side by side with the young 7-year-old Princess Shuri. It seems like they have just completed training, as Shuri asks Brook if he thinks she got stronger, just like her mom. From this, I think we can surmise that Shuri learned her initial combat skills either entirely from Brook or from a combination of him and her mother. Speaking of Shuri's mother, a notably married woman, well, it seems that she is the one and only woman that Brook has his eyes on. And while that may not be a great look initially, I actually really love the dynamic this group has. It simply seems very wholesome. We are then introduced to the king of Asperia, Leuven. I think that's how you say it. Leuven. Leuven. And he looks awesome. Some panels of him remind me of a good timeline King Bakuri. Other panels of him remind me of a good timeline Wapol. In any case, he is great. He kind of doesn't totally look like a king outside of some of his clothing. He seems rough and tumble, but he also seems kind and gentle at the same time. We see him with some hedge clippers decorating the kingdom's plants as musical notes, like cutting them out into musical notes, which is a great background aesthetic. I really love it a lot. Now, he overhears Brooke talking about his wife, and he states, "Brooke, I will execute you for treason." But like I mentioned earlier, this just does not feel serious at all. Brooke calls him harsh, but along with this, and one other point in the chapter, calls him bro. So I'm not sure if this means they are related by blood, and so are actual brothers, or if it is more of like a mafia-style relationship where Brooke sees Louvain as his Anarchy. So they may or may not be related by blood, but Brooke calls him bro, but then he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Your Majesty." In either case, the jabbing continues, with Louvain stating that Brooke is scheming. "You're scheming to assassinate me, aren't you, Brooke?" And Brooke denies this immediately, stating that he would never do such a thing. No. He would simply wait for nature to take its course. Come on, Brooke. Come on, man. What are we doing? This is both kind of ironic and sad to me. Ironic because we, who are from the future, know that Brooke would have naturally outlived Louvain. I'm going to say his name like 3 different ways in this video. Watch. We know that Brooke would have naturally outlived him due to his devil fruit powers. But the sad part is, we also know that Louvain is no longer of this world. This does make me wonder, though, if besides Brooke and Shuri, is there anyone else from this kingdom who is still alive? We then have, in both cute and typical child fashion, Shuri coming in strong, telling Brooke to forget about her mother, and that instead, when she gets older, she will marry him instead. And this whole interaction, it's great. It's great because we have Louvain freaking out, being like, "Shuri, what? No! That's the kind of cute things kids normally tell their dads. Why are you saying this to Brooke, Shuri? What are we doing? Why?" Brooke also shoots her down right away, saying that he is both a one-woman type of guy and that he has no interest in a bride with a runny nose. Rude, Brooke. Rude. Are you the reason why Gunko wears a mask now? Did your comment stick with her, Brooke? Tell me. Louvain then flips his script, aiming a kick right at Brooke's face, being like, "Well, hold on now. How dare you shoot down my daughter right in front of me?" And we get Shuri here looking cute, laughing, and having a grand old time. And she's also in a Nika-like pose. Like, I've seen Luffy be in this very similar pose while also laughing. And while this is a long shot, this is One Piece we're talking about. This is a long shot. But because we know that Shuri is actually still alive, like she will not die in this flashback like her father does. One, we know she's the one who does it, but she's right here in front of us. We know she's still alive. So I really do hope, dang it, I hope that we find a way to save her, and maybe, just maybe, even though this isn't a huge thing in One Piece, but perhaps she really can end up with Brooke in the end. Come on. By the end of the story, we need happy endings. Give it to me, Oda. Give it to me. Alas, for this moment anyway, all good things must come to an end. And this scene is cut short by a guard coming up and informing the trio that riders from a gang are closing in on the port. The soldiers there are outnumbered. The reinforcements, they simply won't make it in time. Who are these riders? What gang are they from? Find out next time on Dragon Ball Z. We find out that they are from the Mouron family. I think I'm saying that right. Mouron. And that the Dawn of said family, Don Mouron himself, is after none other than Queen Candel, Louvain's wife. who is currently performing in an opera house, and so is currently out of contact. An opera house whose transponder snails are also set on Do Not Disturb, so as not to interfere with Candel's wonderful performance. And yeah, we see the family of Don Marone surrounding the opera house to make sure that Candel does not leave. Something that the king is freaking out about. Something that Shuri rightfully is also freaking out about. And they both plead with Brooke that he must do something before the dawn takes Candel away. Brooke, on the other hand, is so nonchalant, completely not concerned at all, stating that he even met them at the harbor earlier. Brooke continues to reassure them by saying not only is Candel strong, and that there's no way these bums would be able to catch her to begin with, but that he has already sliced them all down. And this is wild, everyone. Absolutely wild. Because as Brooke says this, the whole group goes down in unison, having already been cut. The surrounding guards and townsfolk know right away what happened. It was Lord Brooke's 3-pace hum, notch slash. And the way Brooke words this implies that he had met them like earlier in the day. And maybe even that this event is, say, in the evening, or if not the evening, in the middle of the day. Granted, we do not know the exact length of time between his earlier encounter and right now. But what this feels like to me is that Brooke has the capacity of storing a slash on a target and then calling upon that effect later. This reminds me of one of my favorite anime, which I don't think is super popular. It's called World Trigger. In it, there's a trigger called Fujin, which is able to store slashes in objects for delayed activation. Brooke is basically doing the same thing, but with people. Now, we have seen him do it in the current story, but not to this effect, right? He'll slash, he'll charge forward and slash, and then when he sheaths his sword, chink, then the slash goes off. Not like the better part of a day. And it makes me wonder, is his current swordsmanship, is he still capable of this? Or have those abilities of his diminished throughout the course of his life? One such example is, like, he spent 50 years alone on a ship. Who knows how much swordsman training he was doing during that period of time. There are two things for certain, though. One, how in the world does Brooke not know hockey? Come on. It is insane to me that Brooke, of all people, does not know hockey by this point. Even without it, though, he is absolutely no pushover. With this, we reach the end of the chapter, which brings us the formal introduction of Queen Candel. And wow, she is beautiful. Oda has been killing it with his character designs lately. Her outfit is spectacular, but it does kind of remind me of the Gods Knights. This could very well simply be just a shared royal aesthetic, but there is a non-zero chance that more is going on here. The chapter ends on a note telling us that at this time, the kingdom of Asperia was at peace, and that it had two massive stars. One was the former commander of the Royal Guard Corps, and the current queen, Candel. The other, though his music was widely disliked, would slash his targets so swiftly that they never even noticed they'd been cut. He is a master of the swift slash. He is the captain of the battle raiders. He is Humming Brooke. And I gotta say, the king is getting ousted in popularity within his own kingdom. That is pretty funny. And guys, this is it. I mean, we're getting our second, or technically maybe third, Elbath flashback. Like, if you wish to split up the Loki and Harold part from the God Valley part of that whole flashback, you could maybe consider that too, even though it was really kind of one somewhat continuous story, although Harold wasn't really involved in God Valley. So we'll just say 2. We'll say that was 2 flashbacks. Now with Brooke, we're getting a 3rd flashback. That being said, I think this one will be a lot shorter. I can't see it being any more than 2 more chapters, maybe 3 more chapters, depending on how much Oda wants to tell. And while we know it's going to be tragic, we kind of have a little bit of setup for this. We know it's going to end with Shuri being possessed by Emu and killing her father. Whether or not Brooke sees that directly remains to be seen, but that's how we're going to connect that past to where we are in the present. So let me know what you think. What are your thoughts on this chapter? Is there anything I missed? Is there anything you'd like to discuss further on? Like I mentioned earlier, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. I greatly appreciate it. And yeah, let's continue on in the comments and just see where the discussion goes. And with that, right, per usual, I would like each and every one of you to have an excellent rest of your day.